Hello and welcome to DNA of the Soul, a podcast meant to explore the cultural impacts video games have both in and out of their subculture. Today, we're reviewing Left 4 Dead 2, Valve's team-focused horde shooter that still holds the crown of its genre to this day.
I'm your host, typically known as James, although today I think I'm more like joined by my co-hosts, Matt.
Oh shoot, that's Tank!
Joe.
It's going to become a one-man burger apocalypse.
And Kai.
Sounds like a boomer!
We are also joined today by a special guest, our editor, Sayla.
Thank you for having me. I'm Sayla, the producer and editor. This month's episodes will be what we are calling DNA of the Heart episodes. They may not score very highly, but they are all ones chosen by the cast as some of their favorites.
So, Matt, would you read off the disclaimer for this episode for us?
This game's plot is so important and extremely... I'm kidding. The plot's really not important. This is a gameplay for the fun game, so we will be spoiling the plot of this game. But honestly, just go play the game. It's so much fun.
And just an acknowledgement before we start. I'm a little bit biased because I personally have great experience in the past playing versus mode with my friends and even the solo campaign, and so I'm really excited to cover this game. I don't know your guys' experience with it, but...
I played this game so much. I remember my favorite map that I had downloaded was the Lord of the Rings Two Towers Siege map.
What?
That map was so much fun. It had a custom thing where they broke in the wall and you had to defend inside the castle. And it was the coolest thing ever. 10 out of 10.
I didn't know that existed. I'm going to have to download that.
I played this game with a friend of mine for about a week in high school, and then never again.
But it was a very fun one.
I have never played this game.
You make me sad.
You make a lot of people sad. Okay, so getting into a bit of a background for the game, Left 4 Dead 2 was developed by Turtle Rock Studios and then released on November 17th, 2009, a year after the original, which, today with the size of things would be insane, and it was released for Windows and Xbox 360. In October of the next year, it would be ported to Mac, and even a Linux version would release in 2013, if all 4 people were using Linux.
And this game is a huge step up from the first in many ways. Left 4 Dead 2 contains approximately 7,800 unique lines of dialogue, about 40% more than the original. According to the game's director, scope and detail of the game was a focused improvement, and it shows. The environments are much more detailed, there are more campaigns and new special infected. The biggest improvement to the game, however, is what is referred to as the director. The director is an AI that assesses the player's performance and adjusts the difficulty accordingly. If the players are steamrolling through a level, they'll get swarmed with hordes and special infected. If the players are careless, getting hurt a lot, or one of the players are even dead, the director will spawn some extra health items and potentially even better weapons for the survivors, which it was such a dynamic system that makes the game very replayable.
Is this also what contributed to it having such a tight gameplay loop? That is primarily what I remember from the time I spent with this game, was how tight of an experience it was.
Is this like the first game to have that concept of a director for a game like this?
It did. It was greatly improved in this game, and it's a lot smarter.
Okay, because I can think of many other games that use directors like that nowadays, and it just was I can't think of many games before it that use it as well as this game does. So I was curious.
Yeah, at the time, it was a much more unique concept.
So,
the story follows 4 survivors, Ellis, Coach, Rochelle, and Nick, who are trying to escape a zombie apocalypse in Savannah, Georgia, after the events of the sacrifice from the first game. They begin by witnessing a rescue helicopter leaving the rooftop of the Vanna and decide to head to a mall for a second evacuation point.
No, I watched somebody play through it, and I remember being so disappointed at the ending where I was just like, that's it? That's all that happens? Oh, come on!
It was a noble sacrifice, though. The name is apt.
It was.
However, they find the mall overrun and work together to fuel a stock car, planning to drive to New Orleans, rumored to be the last standing city in America.
Along the way, they meet the remaining survivors from the first game, Francis, Lewis, and Zoe, and work together to overcome a horde and lower a raised bridge so they can continue to drive to New Orleans. After driving to Griffin County, they navigate a car-clogged, abandoned highway and find hope in the searchlight leading to Whispering Oaks Amusement Park. They use concert equipment to signal a helicopter, but after being rescued, the pilot becomes infected, leading to a crash in the bayou.
After they escape the wreckage, the group traverses a swamp and a village, fighting off a bunch of infected villagers. Eventually, they find and use a radio to contact Virgil, for rescue. No, not the one from Devil May Cry. They continue their journey, running into more obstacles, like apocalyptic storms, before successfully signaling Virgil for another pickup.
Don't you say it,
Yet
Matt.
I'm motivated now.
Moving on. In New Orleans, the survivors discover that the military is still active, but are skeptical about their intentions. They fight their way through the city, suspecting that the military may be abandoning them, and eventually reach a bridge where they're rescued by the military. Fighter jets bomb the bridge to prevent the infected from escaping, and the survivors are taken to a military cruiser ship, offering a final glimpse of their hope for survival.
So, there are 8 special infected in Left 4 Dead 2. There is the Smoker, who is best remembered for his long tongue and very uncomfortable horizontaling abilities, let's say. The Hunter, who leaps onto survivors and incapacitates them, which is very annoying. Like, I genuinely hated that unit.
Not to mention their
Let's
screams
play
are
the
freaking
game.
terrifying.
The Jockey, who rides on survivors' backs, which makes them very disoriented. I actually don't remember that one so well myself. I guess I didn't let him get near me. Spitter, who has ranged attacks to spit acid to damage survivors. The Charger, who has like super armor, kind of, if I remember correctly, and he can just ram whatever's in his way over. And like, doesn't he also push through other zombies to get at the survivors? Yeah.
And if he charges a survivor, they are in his grasp and being slammed on the ground until it is killed.
Unsettling. The Boomer, who might be the most popular unit from this game, still known today, who vomits bile to attract hordes to himself, and when he dies, he explodes into that same bile, so you don't want to be anywhere near him when he does that. The Tank, which is just a big, heavy brute that hits really hard and doesn't want to go down. He just kind of sponges up all your bullets. And then lastly, the Witch, who, much like Joe, is normally totally harmless. However, if a single microaggression goes anywhere near her, she explodes on you, and then you have to deal with her bullshit for the next 10 years.
Wow. Okay. That got personal real quick. But yeah, the Witch is a unique unit
Not inaccurate.
that if you approach will increasingly get more aggressive until eventually being aggroed, in which in normal mode, the survivor will be instantly downed by one of her attacks, but in the higher difficulties, a survivor will instantly die. So a very tough unit that you do not want to mess with.
I remember when I played this game, we would try to do our best to save the Witch for last in a given wave, and then just be like, okay, one of us is going to go down to this. Everybody else get ready. We got to
Who's
trigger her.
gonna make it? Yes, you can crown the Witch to make it like not as much of a problem, but it's a very risky maneuver.
James, it may only have been 10 years now, but I will be a thorn in your side for the next 50.
The key point with all these special infected is that they can completely incapacitate a player in one way or another, which means that you have to play this game cooperatively to be able to succeed. This is very much a multiplayer focused game, and that is where it truly excels.
I will say, I don't think the tank can actually incapacitate you like all the other ones can. It just knocks you backwards.
Well, yeah, he just does a crap load of damage and doesn't
It
need to
just
grab
is-
you.
No, but like, yes. The other thing I wanted to bring up was that I just remember the tank having the music when it comes in. Everything, you just hear the music, you're like,
Also, the tank has a unique ability where it can hit cars and knock out survivors.
yes, it's very cool. Moving on to player mechanics, there are pretty standard first-person shooter mechanics, but what makes it unique is that there's a shove that the players can use at any time. This is very crucial for survival because you need a bit of breathing room when the horde of zombies that don't do too much damage get around you, because every time you get hit, it stuns you a little bit, so you can't reload. So getting them off you lets you reload, heal, or like complete a task like getting the gas tanks to drive your car, or getting some booze to let a guy let you in a door.
There are throwables, which, pretty self-explanatory on that one, but they can help with acting as a diversion to get things distracted. Or there's a pipe bomb that pulls everyone to it and then explodes. There's a canister of that boomer bile that causes all of the infected to attack whichever infected it hits. That's normally used on bosses or a tank or a witch. Or, a good old Molotov cocktail, which, I mean, you should know what that does.
I have no idea what this does. Can you explain it to me in excruciating detail?
First, you have to understand that alcohol is very flammable. you've got a paper towel or tissue or something else that's equally flammable that sticks out of the top of a bottle of alcohol. Now, let's say you have someone you really don't like in the room over from yours.
You missed the joke.
Whoosh. Anyway, moving on to safe houses. The levels in the game are broken up into chapters, and between each of these chapters, there's a safe house for survivors to exchange their weapons, stock up on ammo, and heal, as each safe room provides the survivors with a new set of medkits. And in addition to these levels, at the end of each campaign, we call them, there's usually a finale where survivors must stand their ground or escape after activating an alarm, repairing a vehicle, or even a concert one time. A concert featuring the Midnight Riders, a fictional band that they actually wrote some songs for. So, and they kind of go hard. They're worth looking into. But essentially, the finale boils down to fighting off waves of zombies and special infected until the escape is complete.
Valve is such a cool company. We need to take a small moment here. I want to brain dump on what I know about Valve. They are one of the very few software companies that do what's called true agile development. Once you join Valve, they don't at least at one point it worked this way. I don't know if it still does. But when you joined a team at Valve, the question was not which team or project you would work on. It was go out and find which of our teams or projects sounds cool to you, and then find which one of them you're going to work for from now on. You would get hired to the company of Valve, not necessarily a team at Valve or for a specific position inside of them. You would go wherever you were passionate about going, and I think that, more than anything else, is what brought out a lot of these more interesting details of their games, like the Midnight Riders.
It kind of gives the indie vibe of development to AAA quality.
There is one last mechanical thing that I want to talk about before we move on to a bit of trivia. There's also one additional mode to the game, which is the mode I was talking about at the very beginning of the episode, which is there's an endless mode, where you just drop into a level and you defend yourself to the best as possible. A lot of the custom maps do this very well. And like I said, there's the Riders of Rohan level that was awesome. But one of my other favorite levels of that, because you specifically mentioned it because it is themed off of the alarm-based thing, you're like a person that was like shrunk down mini size. And every time you started that, you pressed a play button and it played Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. And that is a core memory for me of every time starting this level, just bodies hit the floor. And then all of a sudden the drop happens and then you're just swarmed by thousands of zombies at once. And it was the coolest thing.
That's awesome.
So, if you go up to any jukebox in Left 4 Dead 2, you have a random chance of getting one of 5 songs to start playing for you. One of those songs is still alive from the original Portal.
Another piece of trivia is several different versions of the box art of this game were made for different regions. The hand was flipped in the UK, as showing you 2 fingers in that manner is basically the middle finger. And for the Japanese and the German versions, the hand is made to look like a thumb that is tucked behind instead of the hand missing it. Just, a little less graphic.
Yeah, no, any kind of bodily disfigurement in Japan is a big no-no.
Anyway, in the Dark Carnival campaign, you can get a garden gnome named Gnome Chomsky as a prize for getting over 750 shooting gallery points. You must hold on to the gnome until the end of the level to get an achievement. This is a nod to the Half-Life 2 Episode 2, in which you must launch a gnome into space in order to obtain an achievement. God, that gnome's been everywhere.
I was about to say, I didn't know about this. There's a show on Netflix called Troll Hunter that there's a little gnome in it, and it's called Gnome Chomsky. And that, I did not know about this until just now, and this show was made years later. That's so funny. I love that.
Speaking of nods, there are several nods to other classic zombie media. Like most of the graffiti in the bar is a reference to like other zombie games. A Dead Rising reference. It says Otis out of film. No helicopters. Zombies too fast. Not gonna make it. Frank West. And then there's a PVZ reference. Need an M60? Come see me. Crazy Dave. There's a 28 Days Later reference saying repent. The end is extremely fucking nigh. There's a Shaun of the Dead reference saying Ed is king of zombies. There's a Dawn of the Dead reference just saying Roger went to the mall, Francine. And then a Dawn of the Dead went to save my dog. If not back in 15 minutes, drop everything and come save me. And then there's a Venture Bros reference, which that was unexpected. I don't think I saw that when I played, saying, hey, mall, meet me in town, have some fun. And that's a Brock Sampson quote.
Do you guys know how Brock got into there?
No.
Well, I mean, have any of you heard of Poker Night? I want to say that's the one where he plays with GLaDOS. I could be wrong, but I love Brock Sampson in Poker Night. He's so much fun. Also, anyone in our audience, if you've not seen the Venture Brothers, you're gonna have a lot of really off-putting moments in the first season, but I think that anyone who would appreciate something like the cast we do here would appreciate it. Just trust me, make it through the first season. You'll I can't. There are no words for what it is.
It's
You just
peak.
have to trust me. You just have to trust me.
So onto some other discussion topics. Ellis's buddy Keith. Who all here is familiar with Ellis's buddy Keith?
I don't think I know what this is.
Me either. Wait, is this the
Nope.
policeman?
No, Ellis's buddy Keith. Okay, so Keith is referenced throughout Ellis's many dialogue lines, and Keith has done everything. Like, you name a thing, Ellis will tell you Keith has done it. And throughout the campaign, it changes, but on a consistent basis, it is hilarious. So if you have not heard all the My Buddy Keith transcripts, they're definitely worth looking into because some of them have put me on the floor.
Oh, wait. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. I remember some of those. Being
They're
like,
great.
What is this? Who is this?
Oh, this happened to my buddy Eric once.
It's that guy, yeah.
I thought the implication was that Ellis was fucking crazy.
Oh, it's just his buddy Keith.
I think he's supposed to be a little bit crazy, but like, there's also the people that say, oh, yeah, I had a friend who did that. Yeah, I know about that.
Moving on to probably one of the most iconic lines in the game, Coach saying he will become a one-man cheeseburger apocalypse, which, if you've played the game, you know when you hit the food court, Coach gets very sad, saying, and I quote, "Poor food court never stood a chance." Moment of silence for Coach's food court. He will never be the same. Thank you.
I wonder if there was a reference to that in the American Dad episode about food courts.
It wouldn't shock me.
That also would not surprise me. I mean, just learning about Noam Chomsky in a show from like 2020 is like also crazy.
Moving on, some other notable things this game spawned. The source filmmaker memes. My god. You know, it happens with every Valve game. When, in Once in a Blue Moon, when they release, people take source filmmaker and make some genius level films with it. The first example that comes to mind for me, at least, is Coach Dancing, which I don't know if you guys have seen, but it's fantastic. Oh yeah, it's great. And last but not least, I wanted to go through everybody's like most fond memory with the game. Like if you have a certain like a notable like event where you're playing, I don't know, versus or co-op, whatever, just like one of your favorite memories.
I feel like I shared mine already with the specifically the mini shrunk down board and just thinking of let the bodies hit the floor. And just I don't think you understand how many times I played that stage because the stage also had like so many like secret areas you could go to. And so I was trying to get to all the secret areas. It was like hunting for the Easter eggs in Call of Duty Zombies before that was like really popular. And so I just remember doing that for hours and hours. And just every time I die, let the bodies hit the floor.
I mostly remember the witch hunting strategy I mentioned earlier of just wandering around an otherwise totally vacant parking lot and me and my buddy arguing with each other over who's going to get downed by the witch while she's just, you know, doing her incredibly anxious muttering, slowly wandering towards us like we're trying to decide who's going to put down this rabid dog.
That is a bit straight out of Shaun of the Dead, if you've seen it. Oh, it's so good. This game's fantastic.
The only stuff that I've ever seen of this game has been in YouTube videos, generally, where just about every single thing is modded. So I have at least gotten some entertainment value out of this game, despite never playing it.
Yes, the Steam Workshop can make this game a blast.
Is that Charger Mario?
One of my
I
favorites
think-
I've seen is making the tank Shrek.
Oh, that's funny.
I've seen that too. Also, now that I think about it, the other distinct memory I have, isn't there an apartment building in 2?
Yes, there is.
I've got this very distinct memory of me and somebody else playing, and me being very dead, and them being very alive, and just chaining, shooting zombies and trains down the hallways, healing, luring the next train down the hallway, healing, luring the next train down the hallway. And I'm like, is this fun? Is this extremely repetitive loop you're doing right now? Is this fun?
This doesn't end, does it?
And that was before I understood how to play properly. Like, I didn't understand how shoving worked or anything. So I think that particular part of it could have been a little bit better, but I got into it eventually, and when I did, it was really good. It might just be that I don't care for that level.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd tutorial. But as for my most fond memory, I remember we were playing the Dark Carnival campaign, and we had just gotten through this crazy horde. It was a miracle we were all alive. We were healing, and we were in this little this little shed, and like none of us are paying attention because we just had a horde. Another one won't spawn for a while, and then we just hear the charger scream, and then all of us are on the ground, and then I remember my ears starting to bleed because everyone in my Discord call just started screaming in panic. And if you could capture the essence of that game into one clip, I would say that would be it. So that's one of my favorites.
We're all good, right? Yeah, what's that noise? Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And then I remember distinctly just going, oh my god.
Sayla, do you have any memories to share with us?
I remember the No Mercy campaign, which is playable both in 1 and 2.
No Mercy is fun.
Isn't that a higher difficulty mode that gets more intense as you play it?
No, that's realism. No Mercy is the intro to Left 4 Dead 1, I believe. But it's such a good...
That was fun.
Yeah, it's just such a good... Like, the hospital setting is very, very atmospheric, and it's just overall a great level. So yeah, that's a great answer.
I remember that. I remember the hospital very distinctly also. All right. So, we will be scoring Left 4 Dead 2. And the scores for Left 4 Dead 2 are as follows. In the before category, Left 4 Dead 2 has earned a 3. Left 4 Dead 1 had obviously come out before 2 did. It established a lot of the concepts and was, I think, generally well regarded. Both of the games are pretty well regarded. 2's had the better legacy since it's arguably the more complete game between them. But Left 4 Dead 1 was certainly a good game, and it was also hyped up a lot when it was being released. So there was some public knowledge of this zombie game franchise while they were developing 2. In the during category, Left 4 Dead 2 has earned a 5. Left 4 Dead 2 was incredibly popular when it released. It was pretty darn prominent in the public conscience. I remember seeing some of the earliest YouTube videos I'd ever seen, period, featuring boomers and witches. And, like, there were game storefronts inside of retail stores that had Left 4 Dead 2 posters put up over the cases because they knew that this was the big game. Then something came out shortly afterward that kind of solidified that this is what the genre was going to be at that point in gaming history. It has earned a 3 in the then category. So, who all here has played Call of Duty Zombies?
I don't think you understand how many hours I spent Easter egg hunting. Like, I really don't think you do.
I mean, they got Avenged Sevenfold to do the soundtrack, man. I had to play it.
I have never played a Call of Duty game either.
Oh,
Why are you here?
see, we need to fix this.
I don't like FPS games.
Okay,
We've been over this.
No, after this, we're playing
Yeah,
Black Ops
yeah.
2 Zombies, because Black Ops 2 Zombies is beyond first-person shooter. But anyway, continue.
Let's play the top-down 3D third-person shooter that's in Black Ops 2 with them.
No.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that existed. That's fun.
See, we got you. We can play zombies. It'll be fun. So, yes, at this point in time, the zombie shooter craze began to grasp gaming culture specifically in kind of American entertainment at large by the throat. And Left 4 Dead 2's entire gameplay loop is the zombie killing thing. It wasn't like the COD game based on the Second World War, where you had to clear the entire campaign first to play the good part. And then finally, for the now category, Left 4 Dead 2 has incidentally earned a 2. There wasn't a way we could get out of the scoring system without that being somewhere in here. And the biggest reason for that is that Left 4 Dead 2 is still kind of considered to be the pinnacle of just pure zombie killing fun, and that is an interesting statement to make given how much money Treyarch and Activision have poured into trying to make Call of Duty have the best zombie shooter for literally over a decade. The fact that Left 4 Dead 2 still got the best gameplay loop is a testament to its staying power.
Did you know there's a Left 4 Dead 3? Because I didn't until today.
Well, Matt, it's called Back 4 Blood. And I remember this game being released. I remember people saying it was the next Left 4 Dead game, and then I remember hearing absolutely nothing about its actual gameplay. Kai, can you elucidate us on its actual gameplay?
It's like if you bought Left 4 Dead off Wish.com. It's
Horrifying.
It's literally the same developers, just under a different IP. It's floatier, and they added like ability cards and stuff. Like, they altered the formula in ways that wasn't necessary. And I think that led to its downfall because everyone was looking at this game like, oh, it's the next Left 4 Dead. Oh, it's the next Left 4 Dead. And it's quite similar, but it's not better.
I didn't know this game existed until literally today in the pre-talk before we started recording. They were like, yeah, this game exists. I'm like, what?
Right. Like there's a lot of quality of life things that are nice, but there's also a lot of other staples of modern gaming that can be divisive. Like there's heroes with different abilities. Like I said earlier, there's like ability cards and other stuff that could work if it wasn't for the fact that people were looking at this game as, oh, it's going to be Left 4 Dead with better graphics. You know, if it was trying to be its own thing, it may have done better, but it wasn't.
Now we have some bonus stars. Left 4 Dead 2 has earned the Studio Support Star. And the last update for Left 4 Dead 2 was released, Sayla, when did you say it was?
February 5th.
Yep, February 5th of this year, like a week ago. And they did add a new map to it within somewhat recent memory. Between that and the support the Left 4 2 got coming out the gate with Valve's life cycle for the game, I'd say it deserves a Studio Support Star. Next up is unintended gameplay. So, Left 4 Dead 2 has a ton of mods. I can't possibly imagine that when they were originally developing this game, they expected anybody would turn the tank into Shrek. That just could not have been in the cards.
Honestly, given the environment of the internet at the time, they might have expected that.
There was a lot of mods for this game. That just look up all the mods.
You could say that somebody once told you the mods were going to roll you.
Left 4 Dead 2 also has an established speedrunning scene, which is also very nice. And that only got started shortly after this period of time. When was Twitch founded, Kai?
Twitch just as a site?
Yeah.
2011.
So yeah, just a few years before. So they couldn't have seen that coming, I think. Next up is the Creative Contribution Star. Now, for most of the games we've covered up to this point, the Creative Contribution Star has been given for either level design, map layouts, or music. This time, the Creative Contribution Star is being given for Boomers and Witches, and for the source filmmaker. The Boomers and Witches from Left 4 Dead 2 are memes. They are actual memes. When people are discussing types of zombies in media, they will refer to a large creature as a boomer. Even outside of zombie media, they will refer to large creatures as boomers.
The amount of times I've heard the soundbite of Lewis just go like, "Oh man, that sounds like a boomer," it's uncountable.
Next up is the Personal Taste Star. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. The game's funny.
But no, I have nothing but fond memories of this game.
Sayla, is this a yes from you too?
Yes.
So, finally, Left 4 Dead 2 has earned the Headline Star. So, earlier, Kai mentioned that the box art needed to be changed. That got some notice, because when they first put it on the shelves, they didn't know about that, right? They hauled it off of the, carts and vans and put it on the shelves, and probably the shelf stalkers were laughing to themselves going, wow, those Americans are pretty crazy. They put a middle finger right on the box art.
I love those kind of unintended things where they're like, oh, we're gonna do this thing, it'll be fine, and then they go, some other place goes, you made a mistake. Like, it reminds me of Reggie Steele in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. You should look up why that was changed in the European releases with its art. You'll understand.
Yeah. So, Left 4 Dead 2 has earned a final score of 1,584 points. This puts it just a sliver above Batman Arkham Asylum and right beneath Devil May Cry 5. And for kind of how niche this game is in its own subgenre, this game absolutely dominates. As a game for culture at large, I still think it's left enough of an impression, and I think that sounds about right.
I agree. I think it's in a good spot. It's also next to Virgil and has Virgil in it, so that makes work.
It is definitely, among zombie media, it is very well regarded. But, zombie media not being for everyone, it can't be held in the highest regard in terms of cultural impact.
So you're saying that it's not among us?
Can we kick him out? Can we just ban him from the show forever? I don't know, Joe, you're acting kind of sus.
Well, we were gonna end with some zombie noises, but I think that's everyone. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and hope to see you next time when we're going to cover Joe's favorite game,
Hatamari Damacy.
Did I tell y'all my buddy Keith had a podcast one time?
Hatamari Damacy.